one of my sort of commitment is eventually this world should be compassionate world on the basis strong conviction. We are same human being. Yes, different hairstyle, a different color, different shape of nose, but basically same human being, same human face. The other day, I think some of you, the other day there, I really feel, you see, much problem. You see, we emphasis, you see, different race, different nationality, and a political map, and unfortunately, including different faith. So now, due to these factors, create more problem. Who suffer? We, no other. So it is our own selfish reason, you see, to reduce these, also the divisions. So all these divisions, you see, on the level of secondary level of differences. We must go deeper level. So now my point is, so now your work should be increased and should be more active. So now I'm 82-year-old. Since last year, feeling of tiredness, I see much increase. So you see more activities in different continent, in different country. I may not sort of participate. So I brought to my, trusted colleagues, not colleague, student. No. You know, since I retired from political responsibility, 2001, the Professor Samdorumchi then took the responsibility. So since then, is at the initial stage. So next 10 years, my position is a semi-retired position. Then 2011, this person elected. Then I totally now retired from political responsibility. So these, I can say my trusted friend, and also they knows my thinking. So now, although Rinpoche also, you see, now today his hair shift, so otherwise it's a complete white. I'm older, but still a lot of black.
Yeah.
So, because you see, our work continuously should be more active and sort of more meeting like that. So these two persons, I have full trust. You see, they, if your side and also concerned sort of government side, okay, then you see these two persons, either one, you see, can participate as my representative or my personal sort of emissary, like that.
So, Your Holiness, thank you for receiving us once again for the second annual U.S. Institute of Peace Youth Leadership Dialogue with Your Holiness. And I thought it would be interesting for you to quickly understand who we've brought. This year we have 25 youth leaders from 12 different countries that are affected by conflict, and they are all working hard in their own communities and countries to bring peace and harmony. So just really quickly to hear their names and where they're from.
My name is Amjobo. I am from Myanmar.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shabnam from Afghanistan.
Good morning.
Afghanistan. Oh.
Good morning, Your Holiness. Mahmoud Khalil from Syria.
Bayani Tambash, Dilpak from Kurdistan of Iraq.
Gharsona.
Iraq.
Nagi Musa, Sudan.
Sudan. Oh.
Good morning, Your Holiness. My name is Victoria from Nigeria.
Who was here last year?
Good morning. My name is Gay Dwayne from South Sudan.
Sudan.
South.
I'm Jeremy. I'm from the United States.
Bill Fitzpatrick from the United States.
Good morning. Imen from Tunisia.
Tunisia. Oh.
Good morning. Ahmed from Nigeria.
Good morning, Rasha from Tunisia.
Good morning. David or David from Colombia.
Colombia. South America, yes.
Good morning. My name is Aliwell from South Sudan.
Good morning. Friday from Afghanistan.
Good morning. Ravi from Sri Lanka.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Gatwal from South Sudan.
My name is Darren Abbas from Sudan.
Sudan.
Good morning. I am Gharsona from Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Tashik Alex Tin from Myanmar.
Good morning. Carla Coppell, United States.
Good morning. Diane Zeleny from the United States.
Melissa Nozell from the United States.
Good morning. Victoria Hudspeth from the United States.
Good morning. Cinderella from Syria.
Your Holiness, may peace be upon you. Mubarak from Sudan.
Stephen Call from the United States.
Reem, a Canadian in the Emirates.
Teresa.
United.
United Arab.
Oh.
Allison Malofsky from the United States.
Libby Liu, U.S.
Aubrey Cox, United States.
Fatima Askira, Nigeria.
Good morning. Paula from Colombia.
Good morning. I'm Adeng from South Sudan.
Good morning. I am Lord from Mesopotamia, Iraq, and Kurdistan.
Good morning. I'm Bree Lascota from the United States.
Good morning. Andreas from the United States.
Your Holiness, Hastiar from Kurdistan of Iraq.
Kyrgyzstan.
Good morning. I am Nangele from Afghanistan.
I'm Jonathan from Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
So, Your Holiness, we really cherish this partnership and the opportunity to work together on a shared mission of a world without violent conflict. This is the mission of the U.S. Institute of Peace. And I think we are very much aligned and share the conviction that we will not get to that world without the energy and the commitment and the vision of this next generation of peace builders. And we're gathered here at a time, unfortunately, where there seems to be increasing violence around the world, including even this morning in Texas and in many of the countries where people are coming from. But we have enormous hope gathering together. People are learning from each other. And the opportunity to be here with you for 2 days of dialogue is an enormous inspiration and gives people an opportunity to reflect on how they can pursue their mission more appropriately. And if you'll permit me, before we ask you to say a few words, I'd like to offer a special thanks to somebody who really helped make this all possible. So I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Siddharth Malik and his office, who worked with your office here and in New Delhi to make it possible for everybody here to travel by organizing all the visas. So a small token of appreciation I'd like to offer to Mr. Malik. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. Very good.
Your Holiness, over to you.
The other day, I mentioned, now these days, I usually sound sleep 9 hours, at least 8 hours. So now these days, when I wake up, I enjoy 8-9 hours sleep. But during that 8-9 hours, how many people killed in different parts of the world? And how many children died due to starvation? So then feel. Now the question, it's a sad situation there. See, we remain demoralized. That's not a human way. Animal, when they face some problem, difficult, they completely, because of the loss, their self-confidence and demoralize. But we are human beings. And particularly these problems, who created these problems? We human beings ourselves. So then logically, if we make some effort with vision, certainly we can reduce suffering which we human beings created. And then on top of that, now scientists, of course, last 30 years, I have serious discussion with scientists. And usually I describe myself half Buddhist monk, half scientist. I never participate laboratory, but through conversation, like that. So therefore, now scientists, they say basic human nature is more compassionate. It's quite sort of obvious. All those troublemaker, killer, they also come from their mother. They also received immense sort of love from their mother. Without that, they can't survive. So I wish, you see, each mother, I think, should know their child, they eventually what, because their child become what kind of person. I wish, you see, mother should know. Then eventually my child will be troublemaker. Then I think a mother should neglect. So we 7 billion human beings, all from our mother. We received immense love. Then common sense. I think even sort of very high position or important people without much smile, remain like that, then you don't feel comfortable. When we I myself also some experience when I met some leaders, spiritual leaders, as well as political leaders. There's too much formality, like that. Then I really feel each minute very difficult to pass. When I met this person who really showing human love, and whether they sort of because of the use the word or not, actually on the basis of sameness of human being, then we immediately become very close friend. So that's our common sense. Then scientific finding for physical health, peace of mind, very important. Now some scientists say, constant anger, constant sort of hatred, and too much stress and fear, actually eating our immune system. So these days I'm describing, we usually see, because of the try to know about the hygiene of our physical. So now similarly, we also need education about the hygiene of emotion. So thinking this line, then I feel, in spite sad things everywhere, including religious people, sometimes become troublemaker, including some Buddhist. I'm Buddhist. So therefore, in spite that, there is a real sound basis of our hope. On that basis, instead of demoralize or pessimistic way, we must develop optimism. And with optimism, prayer, not the right method. I'm Buddhist monk. Each morning, about 4 hours meditation, prayer. But I don't believe, you see, pray to Buddha will solve all the problem. No. Or pray to God, Allah, will not solve. So therefore, now it is our responsibility. The other day I mentioned, how many people the other day? Oh, okay. So therefore now, there is a real basis to transform our world through more sort of awareness about our inner world, mainly emotion. What kind of emotion is positive and good for oneself and for other? What kind of emotion is bad for other and eventually very negative effect to oneself? So that's hygiene of emotion. Strictly not based on religion. Theist kasa dimin kasa. Kasa theist, mari theist mange kanos kasa. Secular way. According to Indian understanding, secular means respect all religion, then also respect non-believer. That is, I think, very realistic and very relevant. So, according, you see, India sort of the concept of secular respect everybody, 7 billion human beings, same human brothers sisters. I feel we can change our emotion through awareness, not through prayer, not through ritual. Simply use sort of this marvelous human intelligence. Analyze. If you carry this act, what benefit? Long run. Killing. Not at all benefit. the killer himself or herself also, you see, deep inside, will not be happy. And then problem, you see, use force. I think the chain reaction. And then all troublemaker, not weapon, not come from weapon, but come from here. Anger, hatred. So use force, anger increase. Fear increase. Result, more violence. So the only way, problem which we human beings facing, must try to solve that human way with sense of human brotherhood, sisterhood. That way, then we can, I feel, we can develop this 21st century more peaceful, more harmonious century through inner peace, practice of love, which combined with human intelligence, holistic look. All those sort of troublemaker, too much anger or too much emotion, you see, they just look one-sided. Not at all. You should look more holistic way. So therefore, now I'm over 82 years person. Whole my life, not easy life, lot of problem, lot of suffering. And meantime, each day when I listen, like BBC or CNN, and I cannot pronounce that properly. From Doha. I think very good, really very good. So when I look BBC and the CNN, sometimes a little bit boring. Then I just like that. So when you see, and look at too much problem, too much suffering, and sometimes cry. That's not a human way. Now we must act. We must think how to reduce that. The possibility is there, as I mentioned earlier. So that's my main sort of conviction. So now I'm just one human being, old person. Now, as I mentioned earlier, next maybe 10 years, and then no longer. So now you, youth, the people to whom our whole hope and trust remain on you. So please, now think, and from wider perspective, not from one angle, but 3 dimension, 4 dimension, 6 dimension. If I act this, what effect come? And today's your enemy. Also, you should look from different angle. Not so bad. Just from one angle, then this my enemy, this very bad, very bad. The sooner, the better to kill. But if you look from wider perspective and from different, angle, then that very sort of intense sort of negative feeling can reduce. Like that. So I think like our physical illness, not just one absolute, related with many other. So we have to take more holistic way to tackle our physical health. Similarly, our problem must look more holistic way, and accordingly, more holistic way of approach. That's more human way of approach. Then this problem can reduce. So the other day I mentioned, because eventually this world should be demilitarized world. And then hopefully no longer any political boundaries. In this respect, I think English and American, or French also, you see, in the colony in Africa, some other places, so when they leave, you see, they border according to their convenience, not seriously concerned about the local people's culture or their sort of race or their habit. If we create different country entirely based on their own culture, their own language, like that, I feel like that sometimes. You see, so this political map, boundary, eventually, I think without a boundary, without individual country, one big world, union of the world. Of course, within my lifetime, will not achieve. I don't know, your lifetime also may not achieve. But keeping this vision and make effort now, then after 20, 30 years, some new things may happen. So that's all. Now here, one word, optimism. And more realistic way to look that I want to share.
So these are the issues exactly that everyone has been discussing, and I think that they struggle with in their own lives, you know, coming from places that have these divisions, oftentimes the killings. So I would love to ask, just to get us started with the dialogue with you, if I can ask Nagi to start us off, talk a little bit about his story and a question.
Good morning, Your Holiness. I'm really honored to be here today. About 7 years ago in Sudan, in a cold day in winter, I was so tired and exhausted, preparing for a public event in Khartoum for social peace. And during that event, I saw one of the National Intelligence Security Services officer attending. So I went to him and greet him with a smile. And I told him, I hope you like our program. And we work for peace. We do not do harm to anyone. So after the event, I went out from the place, going to the bus station. So this a pickup stopped next to me with this officer and his colleagues, and he told me let's get you a ride home. I knew that they are arresting me, and I couldn't do anything to it. So I get in the pickup, and when he come across. And when he come near the bus station, he take a turn. I tell him I will get down here, and then he shout on me, and he took me to a house, and then he blinded my eyes. And 24 hours later, I was handcuffed, both my arms and legs, and sitting in the floor. And I can see some of my friends also. We are all in the floor, handcuffed and beaten. And for the next 16 days, we were in a cell. We don't know where we are. We don't have lawyers. We don't know if our families know where we are. So, and I was always telling myself, we don't do any harm to anyone. We use nonviolence to trying to get peace in our country, and yet we are getting beaten, and we feel powerless in this cell, and like that. So, I wanted to ask Your Holiness, how to deal, or how do you deal with frustration?
I really admire, your sort of actual. The action, wonderful, Wonderful. Then there are sort of, as I already mentioned, when we saw sort of limitless problem, and beyond our sort of control or beyond our sort of effective, then there is real sort of possibility demoralize. But you already kept that optimism. So you implement that. The previous our meeting also, I really admire some of the sort of young people. Their sort of determination for non-violence, peace, develop at the moment their friend killed. So at that time, I also mentioned, if I was there, my first thought is, may run away. Some of these people, instead of run away, determined, now I must sort of, determined to develop peace. Wonderful. So I think you already, keep that determination. Otherwise, you will not come here. You just, somewhere, so long, no immediate harm, and you just keep there. So this is clear indication you keep your willpower. Wonderful. That's the only way. I think we also, I think generally sense of competition is not good. But here, I think those people who involve violence, they also have some kind of determination, willpower. We must compete with them. We must keep our determination, competition with them. Our sort of determination, very sound basis. Those troublemakers, their determination, no sound basis, just emotion. Okay.
Ravi, can you just remind His Holiness your name and where you're from?
Good morning, His Holiness. I am Ravi from Sri Lanka, the land which has gone through more than 20 years of civil war in between Sri Lankan Army and the LTTE, the Tamil Tigers. So I would like to share a small bit of a story from my own life which really took me to this path of peace building. When I was just 6 and I was living with my grandparents in the northern part of Sri Lanka, during which period the civil war was in its highest peak. And during the time, just in front of our house, there was a huge army camp. And despite the fact that we are Tamils, those army soldiers are so much in friendly terms with us. They visit our houses, we used to cook for them, and so on. And among them there was...
yes.
And among them was an army soldier who was my bestest friend that time. Because of the war period, I wasn't allowed to go to school or kindergarten. So he was the only bestest friend I had that time. I used to play with him, chat with him, and he takes me to ride in his army truck. Those memories are still evergreen in my mind. And one day there was a big siren sound, and there was a sudden announcement telling that the people who are living in that area should vacate the place, not more than in 10 minutes, because there are going to be an attack between Sri Lankan Army and LTTE. So my grandparents took me to their hands and we were running for our life, but I was so adamant and I said, my grandpa, no, unless I tell a goodbye to my army uncle, I'm not coming. I'm not leaving the place. I was so adamant, and not in a minute, there started firing sound. There were fire, bombing, shelling, everything. And thank God, my army uncle, he was running towards me with all the weapons in his shoulders, and he gave me the tightest hug that time. And that hug prevented me from a bullet targeting at me, and he took that to his shoulder. He was attacked. And he said, no, child, I'm okay, but please get away from this place, please. And from that point onward, I started realizing we people are so good. We see no differences on each other. We are always united. It's something, an external, unknown power that induces these differences between the people. Still, we don't know what that power is. And still, I'm happy that even after this war, we are done with the war almost 10 years now, and still we people are united. So my question to you, His Holiness, would be, what would be your message to all the Sri Lankans that would encourage and motivate them to be more and more united and stand together towards the path of peace building?
I think you already practice that, and you can be, I think, one good example. Now, our own case also, last now over 60 years, I said there's a problem with the Chinese, mainly Chinese communists. Last few decades, and the sesh of the around 1 million Tibetan died through killing, torture, and starvation. However, if we keep anger, some kind of feeling or wishing some kind of revenge, no use. They're also human beings. And Han people and Tibetan, over 1,000 years, we have sometimes fighting, sometimes very close friendship, and through marriage, like that. So then, no use to keep anger, hatred. Only alternative, only option is let us be friends and live side by side. So that's why you see, we are, since 74, we decided not seeking independence or separation. You see, let us live side by side. And provided the Chinese government side, Chinese side, should give us, should implement what Constitution mentioned. So our main concern is our culture, including our language. In Tibetan culture, now very rich, mainly from India. Nalanda, I think some of you may have heard Nalanda. These painting, this is some of the Nalanda masters. So I usually describe these professors of Nalanda institution, not just the spiritual leader, but truly professor. You see, they know about the human mind, about the human emotion, how to tackle these things. And then way to tackle, not through prayer, but extensively analyze these things. Long run, whether some benefit, some of these negative emotion. To analyze, you develop full conviction. Now these destructive emotion, not at all any help. That brings conviction, like that. So therefore, Tibetan Buddhist culture, based on reason, not faith. So I really feel worthwhile to preserve. So we should have right to preserve, you see, all these knowledge. Then politically, we are very much willing to remain within the People's Republic of China. Okay. So this also thinking our policy on the basis of non-violence and the reconciliation like that. So that's the only way.
So, Your Holiness,
at Sri Lanka, very small island, so much better to live together. With Tibet, I think huge area. So if even we have to fight, then I think land quite sufficient. And some area, some people remain there. Some areas, another group remain there. Sri Lanka, impossible.
Your Holiness, you talk about your experience about being a refugee, and you spoke earlier about the power of different identities and how people's different identities can cause conflict. A number of our youth leaders have been or are themselves refugees, and I think they struggle with some of these similar issues about identity and homeland and forgiveness. And I want to ask if Aliwell could share her story with us.
Good morning once again, Your Holiness. My name is Aliwell from South Sudan. My country has been at war for over 30 years. It was then just one country, Sudan. And in 2011, it was separated because it was the North fighting the people in the South. So the country was divided into two, and we became South Sudan, and there was now North Sudan. I was born a refugee because I was born during the crisis, and I was born a refugee in Ethiopia. And I know what it feels like to be born in a foreign land, in a refugee camp, where you're only surviving on foreign aid. There is no roof. You're using probably paper to make a small hut where you can sleep in. And being in a foreign country, you have no shelter, you have no place, and you're begging for services is something I thought would end with my generation. When we got independence in 2011, we really celebrated because we thought we were saying goodbye to suffering. We finally have a place to call home, our own home. But as I speak to you now, Your Holiness, my own people are fighting themselves. And over millions of people have been internally displaced and externally displaced in all the neighboring countries bordering the current South Sudan. And to me personally, I feel like no child that was born after we got independence deserves to be a refugee or internally displaced, still begging for services in their own, in a different country right now. I do peace building because I believe we can do better. We don't have an external enemy. We are killing ourselves basing on tribal lines. We don't have someone outside South Sudan that is attacking us. And in my field of work, I try to look at a different angle, and I do peace building activities with mostly children. And I do women empowerment as well. And so in your experience, I know you've done quite incredible activities with children. And in a situation like in my country, women and children are merely looked at as victims of war. They are powerless. They have no role to play in situations like that. And I am, in this brief dialogue with you, I am seeking to understand how do we channel that status of being only a victim? How can we effectively use women and children as peace builders and not just victims of any conflict in a country? And then I also understand that you started your leadership at a quite young age. And I'm sure it was not a very easy journey for you. And in my country, women are not taken as people who can do anything or who can contribute to nation building. Your role is to be in the kitchen and cook food. So when I go out as a young girl, as a peace builder, as a youth who wants to make a difference, people don't even take me seriously. You know, you try to address elders and they are looking at you like you're a child, you're not supposed to be here, but you have a vision, you have a message that you want to put across. So I don't know what message or what kind of encouragement you can give me as a youth, as a young leader in this peace building journey I have started.
Oh, I really appreciate. I think in ancient time, no concept of leadership, a small human community work together, share together whatever they get. Eventually, population increase and a farming system developed. Then the cases of stealing, or bully, or cheating, these things happen. So the concept of leadership developed. At that time, the concept of leadership entirely based on physical sort of strength. So male dominance then come. Even some religious sort of tradition also, you see, there are some sort of tendency or some impact where the male dominance. Now that gone. Eventually, education come, education develop. Education brings more equal. In modern time, you see many leaders in different countries, female. So education brings more or less sort of equal sort of opportunity or thing. But still, the male dominance, some kind of there, still there. So nowadays, I always was telling, now today, the education alone, not sufficient. Education, particularly the existing modern education, is very much oriented about material value. With that, oriented power, wealth, like that. So that kind of education, sometimes instead of create more peace or more sort of harmony, but creates division and more problem. So, so-called modern education must include education about our inner value. That I often used to telling people. I really feel. So then the field where modern education not adequate. Now, education about inner value, mainly human love, human affection. So now time come, we must promote this inner value. In that respect, female should take more active role because biologically, female have a more sensitive about others' suffering, others' pain. So we male, we show our strength. Physically, biologically, female have the kasa, breast, and giving sort of milk. A father cannot do that, only mother. So the milk is the symbol of love. So now time come, female should take more active role regarding the promotion of human deeper value. That's a human love. So now here, everything depends on education. If I may say so, it's some area, the education not adequate. And education itself also not complete, I feel. Like Europe and America, these countries, modern education, highly developed, but a lot of problem there. So the existing modern education is not adequate to bring peaceful family, peaceful community, peaceful nation. So therefore, now I fully committed, try to revival of ancient Indian knowledge about inner value and knowledge about human emotion and knowledge how to tackle these emotions, how to tackle this destructive emotion. So these should consider as the academic subject, not religious subject. I fully committed. So many Indian now showing interest. So within next 1 year, 2 years, I think many universities in this country now really showing interest. And next few months, we're going to have some sort of seminar meeting with those, many chancellors like that, about few hundred chancellors, universities like that. So now we have to think education. No, we have to think what are the sources of present problem. The modern education, those materially developed country. So they have all material facility, generally speaking, there. And education also very good there. But I think most of the troublemaker are well educated. So that existing education not adequate, no guarantee to bring inner peace. Too much sort of fear, too much self-centered attitude. That creates fear. Fear creates uneasiness. That creates violence. So therefore, now the global level, I think time come. We should think seriously existing education, whether adequate to bring happy individual, happy family, happy community, finally happy world. So, when you use sort of telling your own story, very sad. But this, I think, not only your own case, but everywhere, this problem there. Some cases more serious, some cases not look sort of very because of the appearance of selfish membership. So in any way,
the problems may not be very obvious, but deep down there is always a problem.
There's the real hope, real responsibility remain on our younger generation. The other day I mentioned generation of 21st century. Yes, now you. Now I belong 20th century, so now ready to say, oh, bye-bye. So now you, the generation of 21st century, now you must work hard. Just work hard, not sufficient, but with vision, with sense of responsibility about humanity, about the world. Sometimes religion also, you see, make a little bit sort of discrimination, males and female. Nowadays, I think it is understandable. Most of our major religious tradition, you see, developed last 2,000 years. So the society, social system is a feudal system and male dominance. So these, I think, take time, but through education, gradually can change. Next.
Your Holiness, Doreen wanted to jump in on that, and then Shabnam.
Good morning, Your Holiness. My name is Darren. I'm from Sudan, and I'm very honored to be taking part in this dialogue with you, and I'm humbled by the amazing stories of the inspiring group that I'm with, and also the fact that I'm present here with my brothers and sisters from South Sudan is really making me feel the soreness and the pain of political divides. When I was a student, a third-year medical student, excitedly going on the first day of our clinical round, carrying my expensive backpack with no care in the world, we went to a hospital, and I saw a little girl who was standing in the corner in a nightgown and a scarf full of holes, and she was looking at us curiously. So I started to make conversation with her. I learned that she was from Darfur and that she's currently at this hospital with no connection to her family, and that she was in an area that suffered armed conflict. And in her eyes, she looked at me curiously, and there was sadness as well, and she started asking me questions about, are you a doctor? And I explained that I'm qualifying to become a doctor. And then from that conversation with her, I really felt like she didn't see any potential in herself after passing through such trauma. And from that, I started working with the rehabilitation of women and girls who are survivors of armed conflict. And the question that I want to ask Your Holiness is, how can we help restore the faith and inner peace in these people, or help them restore their inner peace after passing through such horrible traumas, and let go of the feelings of resentment that they have? Thank you.
That's not easy. Even at physical level, some serious illness, once fully developed, then difficult. So important is preventive measure. You also also the hygiene, including hygiene, or all these, the preventive measure. Once we neglect about a preventive measure, then the physical illness become very serious and very difficult. So similarly, I think today's world, I think we are lacking preventive measure to build healthy society, compassionate society. So we are facing this problem. No one have a miracle to eliminate these things. Even I think now here, the world religion, there are two groups. One group, theistic religion, believe Creator and God, they created whole world. So according to that sort of belief, I think you should complain to God. Why you create such sort of a miserable world? One my Indian friend, really very sincere and close friend of mine. So one day he asked me some difficult question. The whole world created by God. So among His creation, there are some mischievous people, a lot of mischievous people. Why God create that? Then, you see, difficult to answer that. Then I just try to find one answer. Since God also create hell, so there must be some people ready to go hell. Otherwise, no use to create hell. Then the world religion, like ancient Indian Sangha philosophy, one part believe Creator, one part no belief, no concept of Creator. Then Jainism, no concept of Creator. Then Buddhism, no concept of Creator. Says Buddha Dharma says self-creation. So everything, you see, they depend on yourself. If you do something good, you get benefit. If you do bad, you get negative consequences. So we have no way to blame to God, to Buddha. Everything, you see, depends on ourselves. So according to his religion, pray to God, pray, pray. But difficult. Sometimes, you see, my thinking is more radical. So one occasion at Patna in Bihar, so the one was the local state government, you see, constructed one Buddha's vihara at their capital. So he invited me for open ceremony. Then at that ceremony, the chief minister mentioned, due to Buddha's blessing, his state will soon become prosperity. Then my turn. I always talk quite frank, no formality. I always do that. So then I express, your state become more prosperity due to Buddha's blessing. Then your state much earlier should be prosperity, because of Buddha's blessing last 2,000 years there. So the prosperity of your state entirely depend able chief minister's hand. Buddha's blessing must go through the able chief minister's hand. I mentioned that. So that's my sort of the way of thinking. Buddha himself, you see, made clear like that. So therefore, so sometimes I think the other day I mentioned I am nihilist, nihilist. According from theistic viewpoint, we have no concept of God, no concept of Atma and Anatma. Buddhists, I think, really, and within Buddhism, the one school of thought of Madhyamika philosophy, the Prasankika. Within Buddhist school of thought, they consider Prasankika theory is nihilist, or nihilism, like that. So I belong that. So I am nihilist.
One more.
Okay.
Your Holiness, you talked about preventive medicine. And I think a number of our youth leaders have dedicated themselves to that.
Right now.
So I'd like to ask Shabnam to...
In the name of Allah, who is most gracious and most merciful, I'm Shabnam from Afghanistan, and I'm living in a region, in the southern region of Afghanistan, which is really influenced by the very wrong traditions, the traditions that are totally against education for women. My story starts from my center where I learn English. I finished my English class and I was so tired and bored. I was on my way to canteen and that I faced a very beautiful small girl who was just from 10 or 11 years old. She stopped me and asked me that, can you lend me some 10 Afghanis? I want to buy a notebook for myself in order to write my lessons in it. And I told her that let's go, I will buy you a notebook. And finally we reached the canteen and I bought the notebook and gave it to her. This notebook, the joy of notebook really made her smile. And her eyes were sparkling from the joy of a notebook. And her smile, her happiness really healed all my tiredness. I really got refreshed. I got energetic. And from that day, I planned with myself. I made a plan to that every month I should keep an amount of my salary in order to provide school materials and school stationery for girls, for poor girls in Afghanistan. And if I get able, I will do this for the world too. Now, my question that I have from you, respected, is that how can we make the tradition leaders, how can we support, how can we request them to help women education, how to support education for women? Thank you.
Now, some of the traditions, even very backward, very narrow-minded thinking, not easy to change through generations. So gradual method, I think now the Afghanistan, for example, the development of Afghanistan, the education, modern education, very important. So gradually, you see, people realize that. Then also, I think effort, equality, female, male. Then, as I already mentioned, you see, female actually should take more active role regarding promotion of human love, human affection. So nowadays, take time. If you really believe God, Allah, then pray to Allah. So no harm. Like that. So these I take time. Not easy. Certain sort of traditional way of life, way of thinking. Several generations. So take time. But there is always possibility, the change of backward thinking. So you should not discourage yourself. And your effort, I really appreciate. Very good. So, as I already mentioned, these individual, wonderful. The one individual, you see, try to bring more people. And then gradually some kind of NGO, some kind of group of people. And that effect come more. With one individual carry some effort. But firstly, one individual like you, then share at least your area. Share your ideas, your practice, your experience. Share with more people. Then eventually some kind of NGO create like that. And then I think religious leader also very, very, very important. So I think some more, because of the open-minded, some leader, religious leader, you see, try to talk. And in the village, there's some religious leader speak something, perhaps more effective. Isn't it? Like that. So you should create one class to religious leader. Yes. Now, tea.
Now tea?
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you for the tea. So we've changed our youth leaders, so we have a different group in the front now, you'll notice. But everybody here has really struggled with conflict in their own communities, finding their purpose, and I think also finding the ability to maintain the inner peace that you spoke about, especially as their countries go through important changes. But I'd like to start this segment by asking Rasha from Tunisia, if you're ready, Rasha.
Yeah. I'm so humbled to be in your presence today, and to know that you will listen to my story and finally have someone to listen to me. So
I want to make clear. I always consider myself as one of 7 billion human beings. Nothing special. Nothing special. Of course, I have some sort of opportunity to gain experience and to learn certain sort of knowledge about our mind, about our emotion, these things. Otherwise, we are same human being. So, let's say, whenever I give talk, I always telling we all mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. So you should not, use the word humbleness. Marbe, ngendulia, kaza marbe.
So I was born to a very conservative family. I'm half Syrian, half Tunisian, and I was born and raised in Dubai. And I had a twin brother who had all the rights to do everything and to go play with his friends and to go to school and to do everything. And a lot of stuff I was not allowed to do because I was the female. So I was oppressed. And I grew older feeling very angry towards this type of slavery, because to me it was kind of slavery. And then at the age of 18, I moved back to Tunisia, to my home country, Tunisia. And I wanted to study at university, but because I only spoke Arabic and English, I couldn't study in Tunisian universities because they're in French. So I started looking for universities abroad, and I found a scholarship in England, but I needed to pay money. I needed more money. So I tried to find a job, and the only job for an 18-year-old girl was to work as a babysitter. So I put my CV online, and I started receiving a lot of emails from families interested in hiring me to work as their babysitter. However, none of these families wanted to talk to me on Skype. I couldn't see any of them. They all had the same language: just send us your passport and we will take care of the paper. So I felt something was not okay. I had a gut feeling that it's weird, you know? So I did some research, and I realized that a lot of girls are actually trafficked through false job promises. So I was going to be a victim of human trafficking. I was going to end up trafficked into prostitution somewhere in Europe. Years later, I forgot about that.
Oh.
So years later, I forgot about that. And then when I did my master's, I went to Italy for some research, and I met a Nigerian victim. She was a survivor after being victimized for 10 years into prostitution. And it hit me. I realized that, you know, I could have been that woman. So that day, I realized that I really want to fight against human trafficking, and it became my life passion and my life mission. So I established the first anti-human trafficking organization in Tunisia, and I do that as my life mission. So my question to you is, as a young girl, just as Aliwell said earlier, I'm 28 years old, and in Tunisia, if you want to talk to traditional leaders, they don't really listen. They don't consider me as important or as, you know, knowledgeable enough to talk to. So how can I make people listen to me, and how can I make them believe in the cause that I'm fighting for? Thank you.
That's difficult. Because Miji Nyayar is why. 지들어 저한테 저보다 뭐랑 그 매주시 자디. 저는요. We already sort of discussed about that. You see, not easy, but general public education, that I feel important. And then education itself, existing education system, I feel not adequate. So gradually, education, more holistic education. Holistic means education about material value, education about inner value. So take time. So under present sort of circumstances, I think because of the materialistic education, materialistic sort of oriented way education, so that create materialistic life, materialistic culture. So people who come from that kind of sort of life or cultural heritage, difficult. But as I mentioned earlier, there is real possibility to change that. With the help of, I think, the Gharsona, I think including scientists. And then I think more and more people now begin to realize the existing education is not adequate. More and more people whom I met, more and more people, now they agree. So take time. Now the first, I think, to start some new sort of system of education. Maybe this country more suitable, more possibility, as I already mentioned. Then India, most populated nation, democratic nation. I mean, most populated democratic nation, Population-wise, China is the most populated nation. So I really feel some change in education system in this country. Then, since India, as I mentioned earlier, democratic, quite stable, and now economically also, you see, grow quite well. I think one occasion, I think Hu Jintao, a former president of China, wants to visit here, and some sort of media asked me, "What is your message?" And I mentioned, I hope Hu Jintao can learn India's situation. India, East India, South India, West India, North India, Central India, different language. So with that, some little differences of different culture, but all remain one union, happily, with freedom, equality. So China also, you see, over billion human population and a different group of people who have different language or different culture. So give them equal right and freedom, then we can live harmoniously. So take time. Change overnight, impossible. And particularly in those areas, a little bit sort of orthodox thinking, strong. Take time, take time. Even if the same Muslim believer, I notice Muslim in this country, very open-minded, comparatively. And also I notice a Muslim in Malaysia, because there are a large number of Chinese there, most of them Buddhist, and there are a large number of Indian, Hindus. So Muslim in Malaysia also is more open-minded. Now Indonesia also now, because in the past history, Buddhism, and in like Java area, traditionally Buddhist area, like that. So because you see some from childhood, Muslim children from young age, they already know there are different religious faith. Whereas in Arab, isolated, you see, no sort of contact with different religious faith, then sometimes it's a little difficult. So these, I think, including tourism, and also, you see, scholarship from these area. And then, gradually, I think, will change. In this respect, I feel Indian Muslim should carry some sort of effort to reduce fear among the Buddhist brothers, sisters, and some Muslim brothers, sisters, historically remain isolated. So some kind of fear the Western civilization, Western democracy, civilization, threatening to their faith. And particularly the September 11th sort of event happened. They're very negative. So, take time, but more contact. I think like our meeting, although very small, but each of you have this sort of opportunity, share with more people in your own country. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we should have this kind of meeting more regularly. So these are the methods. Otherwise, it's difficult.
And you'll... Oh.
Your Holiness and friends, Kindly excuse me my bad English. His Holiness just desired me to, if I wish to speak, I should speak. So I am hearing this morning the presentations of our friends, and mostly I find that the difficult of making our effort effective to oppose the injustice or the wrongdoing. So my first suggestion is, according to Buddha's teaching and also according to the practice of Gandhi, we have to differentiate the action and the actor. And the actor is to be loved, and the action is to be opposed. So our difficulty is whenever we oppose an action or wrongdoing or injustice, we just oppose that actor as well. And that makes it is a kind of revenge, and ourselves become on the sin level of the wrongdoer. If some person is doing injustice or violence, if we react with the same violence, then it will be perpetuation of the wrongdoing, nothing new. So we have to love the actor and educate the actor what he or she is doing is not correct. And similarly, there are some problems which are coming from so-called tradition. And I respect all the religious traditions, and no religious tradition can teach something injustice or discrimination among the human beings. So therefore, we shall have to redefine the tradition. According to the Kumar Swami, all the systems or customs which are perpetuated for a long time does not make in a tradition. The tradition must be three components. The first is the tradition is originated from the divine sources, and it's coming down unbroken lineage, and it is verifiable by common sense and logic. So therefore, if any religious teaching says the women should not have education or something like that, similar things, misinterpretation can also occur in the Buddhist tradition as well, Buddhist system as well. But these things are not coming from the divine source, and it is a later addition coming into the religious systems. So we have to study the basic source of the religion, and through the scholars and religious leaders, through a in-depth research, and this kind of discrimination or injustice is really that part of teaching of the religion, or it is a later addition through society or something like that. And then finally, if we are able to differentiate the actor and the action, and we really have a genuine love to the actor, then our opposition to the wrongdoing must be much more effective, which has been demonstrated by Gandhi. And we can see, not only Gandhi, by many these kind of who are doing satyagrahas. So the love to the actor is the key factor, which is very difficult to curate. And if we are able to do that, I think all our work will bring some effect. Thank you.
Actually, I think the proper way to test your sort of compassion is genuine compassion or not. You see, you should examine your feeling towards enemy, troublemaker. See, if you equally feel genuine sense of concern of your enemy, in spite of their attitude, that is unbiased, compassion or love. Really oriented about being itself. But usually our love, compassion towards one's own family member or like that, that's more attachment, not genuine love. Genuine love, you see, regardless their attitude, but still they are human brothers, sisters. Keep our love, compassion. That's the genuine one. So enemy, some Buddhist literature mentioned enemy is your effective teacher of practice of tolerance and practice of love, like that. Then one Professor Samdurji, you see, took some quotation of Mahatma Gandhiji. Now I want to take Buddha's quotation. So one, I think the unique thing, Buddha, is he told to his follower, or monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So accordingly, some of the Nalanda master, they rejected some of Buddha's own teaching. If you accept this teaching, it goes against the reason. So we should reject. That's quite unique, isn't it? But meantime, I never state Buddhism is best. I never state. So, the best or good or bad, according to the person. One individual, Buddhist teaching more effective, then to that person, Buddhism is best. To someone who believe, who find much benefit, much effective to their practice or to their behavior, sense of God, Creator, then for that person, the theistic religion is best. Like food, we cannot say, this food is best. We cannot say. According to the individual, some people are fond, some cause of the hot meal, spicy. Then let them enjoy that. And some people feel without too much spice. So for that person, another food is better. Like medicine, also we cannot say this medicine is best. According patient, for this illness, a patient also, due to yesterday's condition, this medicine is best. Now today's condition, some change, therefore this medicine is best. Like that. You cannot, similarly, religion, we cannot say one religion is best. Cannot say.
Thank you, and thank you, Professor. And you have both touched, I think, on a number of themes that all of our youth leaders really wrestle with. And I want to just pick up on the one about how traditions and faith come together to create difficult conditions. We heard a little bit about it before, and Gharsona works directly on this issue in Afghanistan. So, Gharsona, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about your work.
I am Gharsona from Afghanistan, and I'm working with traditional leaders, religious scholars, and community leaders, bringing them together to use them as a support network for women empowerment, for peace, because I believe that if women are not engaged in the peace process, we cannot achieve peace at all. And that gets me back to the story that my midterms are finished, and now I'm in Kabul. And I'm leaving to Nangarhar province, which is a more conservative province, going there and having a workshop with community leaders and religious scholars and inviting them from 24 districts of Nangarhar province. And I go to the Directorate of Pilgrimage. I'm along with my sister and with my another team member who is also a female. And we ask them for cooperation, that how you can cooperate with us to invite these religious scholars together. And they're looking at me and saying that, well, you are too young and you are a woman. And how are you expecting those religious scholars and tribal elders to come sit with you and listen to you? But I'm like, no, I can do it. And then I have some contacts with the Ministry of Pilgrimage as well, and I contact them, and then they contact the directorate, and finally we are able to bring these ulamas together. Now the interesting point here is that when we bring the ulamas together with with me not having a home in Nangarhar, and still in a very hot weather, we try to manage things. In the 100 ulamas come together, and the theme of the workshop is that how we can have women's strong engagement in the peace process, and how we can use these ulamas and tribal elders and religious scholars as a support network back in their communities to raise their voices for women's education. Because it's not only just women's education or women empowerment, but it's also helping the entire community, socially, economically, politically, and in the peace process. And what really hurts me at that moment is that these ulamas are coming and saying that we are already doing enough. We have already raised our voices. And they are not accepting the fact that it is important for women to be very, very involved in those areas. But we also use some other techniques, bringing us how your Holiness mentioned that we bring some modern ulamas from the government, and then they start raising the point that yes, women empowerment is important. And then there is an encouragement in a type of type of plot is being created there, type of tension is created there, and they start thinking about it, which was effective to an extent. But when I am engaged with these people and at the same time engaged in the policy level, so see, when the grassroots level is there and then the policy level is there, both are fighting for power, both are fighting for getting the dominancy and for getting that type of things that they want. So my question would be that if you could share your experiences, because my long-term goal is like for 20 years, for 30 years from now onwards, to bring all these religious scholars back to one network. How would your experience could help me, like in different phases of your life that you were engaged with the religious scholars, and could shape the work that I'm doing, both in the grassroots level and from the top to down approach as well?
Oh, difficult to say. I think in order to give you satisfactory, realistic suggestion, let me spend some time there. And meet hardliner and more talk.
Bottom line, right? Meet and talk, bottom line, yeah?
I do one example. My own case, about, I think, more than 40 years ago, I sort of was the urge monks, nuns, traditionally not carry serious study. Then I asked them, you should study, introduce serious study, 20 years, like that. So then I also used to urge nunneries should study equal way with monk usually do. Some of these monk institutions do. So at that time, some little bit of reservation. Because the Kishima does the way Kishima.
When His Holiness suggested that women should also study the Buddhist philosophy, nuns should also study Buddhist philosophy, there were some elderly monks who were resistant to that idea, that Geshima, which is like a PhD degree, when you finish your study of philosophy, we may not be able to give this degree to the nuns. So there was some kind of resistance.
So then I argue, Buddha himself give us equal opportunity, bhikshus and bhikshuni, the highest, the ordinated monk, bhikshus, and similarly for female bhikshuni. So since Buddha himself give equal sort of right, so the study is concerned also, we should make equal. So then we start. Now last year, the the none. You see, because also I think at least around 20 years serious study. Now their knowledge reached such a level, so we give the degree like that. So this is something new. Originally, because at the beginning, a little bit sort of surprising, so not easily accept. But then time passes, okay. So you should, I think, there to build a community. You see, I think whole people should make effort. So everywhere, I think male and female number, I think more or less equal. So with full sort of cooperation with male by female, then countries, villages development is much effective. Women without education remain there, it suffer. The whole community. I think if I'm one of you, I may argue that way. Female and male, you see, two hands and intelligence there. So we have same potential. Work together with education. Then I think important, we have to sort of educate. The feudal system is outdated. My own case, as this morning I mentioned, at least the last 4 centuries, Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that I myself, you see, retired, but also the 4th century old tradition, Dalai Lama institution, automatically become head of both, now cease voluntarily, happily, proudly. So, Dalai Lama institution become head of both is some connection with the feudal system. Feudal system is outdated. Now today's world, democratic sort of, because of the democratic movement. So all sort of sign. Or in India also you see the caste system, very much related with feudal system. The ruling class have certain right to exploit lower class. So these are outdated. So therefore, some of the tradition, even in the name of religion, now have to change. Not through revolution, but through education. So in that respect, I have some sort of, sympathetic or some agreement, the French Revolution or Bolshevik Revolution. See, they against religion, something like that. But actually, what is religion? Compassion is religion. Forgiveness is religion. Nobody can against that. The Bolshevik, the original sort of Marxism, very much concerned about working class people's right. So equal distribution. The capitalist, the elite people, exploit the working class people is unequal, because it is wrong. So working class people should have right voice. So Bolshevik, the Marxism, I think wonderful. So as far as socio-economic theory is concerned, I am Marxist. Half Buddhist, half Marxist, and then half scientist. So therefore, now these some sort of tendency to against religion, not religion, but religious institution. Religious institution very much because of mixed with feudal system. So that part must change. So when situation is such necessary to revolt, worthwhile. Do you agree or disagree?
You know, you've mentioned, the struggle, and you talk about the democracy that happened here. I want to ask Tin to share his story, who was on the front lines of a democratic struggle in his country.
My name is Tin from the Myanmar. Since 2007, I participate in the suffrage movements, and we have a lot of students having. At the time, I have a chance to visit to the minority place. What I see there's when I walking with that's like in the minority area highlands, like Dharamsala, in the cold. And I see some children playing around with that. I sit down and I look at what they are doing. I see a Chinese digging the hole. Digging the hole. A kid is digging the hole. So I asked, what are you doing for? He says, he digging the hole. Oh yes, I see. What for? He said, to hide my families and friends. I said, from who? He says, Burma military. I'm a majority Burma. I feel at the same time, I feel shame myself. I'm a Burma, but I don't do anything, but shame on me. I'm a majority doing something not for the minority right now. Same then, I decided myself, I was doing it for humanity, not for my race, not for my religions, not for anything that's my identity, but I'm doing it for humanity, and then since then, I'm working for the minority rights. Your Holiness, I want to ask, one question is, to coexist together between the majorities and minorities, what is the principle, what is the roles and responsibility each other for the peace? Thank you very much.
Of course now, as I already touched, the division, including religious faith. These, as I mentioned this morning, the secondary level. Basic thing is same human being. And like Burmese, whether Buddhist or whether Muslim, Burmese people. Then you have to live side by side. So firstly, should think importance of same human community. It's quite sad, you see, from racial viewpoint, because racially. Now, for example, South Africa, white community, a black community. Recently, I saw the one picture, one case, two white farmer. Actually, because Rokamjinarolia, Minaj Baluche, Chesma.
So the two white farmers were actually putting a black African in a coffin.
Oh. So later, I think they,
so they were actually taken to legal court.
Oh. So, they, on the basis of different race, different color. So I have one experience, one occasion in South Africa, the Soweto town. I had opportunity to visit Soweto town. Then I visited one black African sort of family. And then there one black African youth, quite young. I told him, now constitution, now you already achieved democratic constitution. Now emotionally, it may take some time to feel equal. Now you must work hard. Should reach equal because of the level, education, and work, many other things with white people. Then that black an African, he introduced me as a teacher. When I explained that, he responded to me, no, we black Africans' brain is inferior. We cannot be equal with white people. I really shocked. I argue, no, totally not. If you go to brain specialist, if you ask any differences brain due to different color, the doctor, the scientists definitely say no differences. Then I also mentioned in Tibet and some hardliner of Chinese communists, they look down Tibetan. They are inferior. But only question of opportunity. When we refugee community here, when we find opportunity that we can be equal. So we are same. I argue with him, such sort of, or such stories like that. Then, after I think a few minutes, after a long talk, then he, with sideway, like that, then he responded to me. Now he convinced we are equal. So now, I think a colonial rule and a feudal system, sometimes you see some kind of, they create impression, and people in this country, low caste people, and sometimes I think they're like a female or these things. You see, traditionally, you consider these are more lower. So that through education can change and will change. We have to make effort. So like that. So therefore, sometimes traditionally, certain sort of view or certain people, because of their inner sort of ability, lower or weaker, like that. So these are the creation of feudal system. We must against.
So we actually have with us, and if Ang wouldn't mind going next, we have Ang also from Myanmar. On the other, is there, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ong. I come from Myanmar, from the most persecuted minority level by UN in the world. I belong to Rohingya Muslim. So we have been, just to give you in a nutshell, we have been abused and prosecuted for 4 decades now. Access to education, access to health, restrictions of movement, practice of religious. So some 15 years ago, I left, I escaped my own place to seek further educations where I will be able to partially study to the capital. And I managed to get educations to somewhat level in the capital, and I got some chance to study abroad, and I came back last year to contribute to the nations to build it to a better society through religious harmony, interfaith, and preventing violent extremism. And recently, in my country, on August 25th, there was an attack to the government by a group of extremist people, which killed more than 3,000 to 4,000 people and a lot of disappearance. And 600,000, approximately 600,000 refugees fled in 3 weeks' time to Bangladesh. Hundreds of villages has been burned, a lot of women has been raped, children were killed. And as a Rohingya Muslim, we are victims. But my questions throughout this experience to Your Holiness would be, as a victims, how we can contribute to the to build a better society through peace, harmony, and social cohesion, and those kind of things. And connected to that, if Your Holiness, you were a Rohingya, what will you do at these situations to bring peace and harmony to this society in Myanmar? Thank you very much.
What I can do, since I know Aung San Suu Kyi as a Nobel laureate sister, so I think one occasion, Nobel laureates meeting, she was there, and I told, the sad situation in Burma, she should do something. Then she told me, very difficult, the military, you see, some connection with military, so difficult. And then recently, I also wrote a letter to her that what I can do, only that much. And then, if there is opportunity, visit Burma, then certainly I want to go this sort of troubled area, but since you see, except Japan, all Buddhist country not allowed me. I usually see telling sort of with joke, because I am Buddhist. So all except Japan, all Buddhist nations not allowed me. Of course, obviously the Chinese pressure, like that. In early 60s, I have opportunity to visit Thailand. So the late king also I met. Or that day, that occasion, in Thai tradition, monk should not shake hand with lay people. So king, still lay people. So whether I should shake hand or not. Actually, before the dinner, lunch offered by king. So I had discussion with the Indian ambassador there. So and tomorrow go to palace and meet king. So I should extend my hand or not. Then we finalize. If king extend hand, then I should shake hand. If king not do, I should not. So, wonderful sort of, because of the king, wonderful king. So now, really, I don't know. These are, I think, some kind of, because of the whole world at present is a very unhealthy sort of thing there, and religious discrimination, and within Muslim, Shia and Sunni, and Egypt, Christian and Muslim, and for example, Northern Ireland, within same Christian, Catholic, and Protestant. You see, there are so many sort of the conflict in the name of religion. So that sort of some impact in Burmese case also, I think. So now this, as this morning, I already mentioned the religious harmony. Firstly, when we develop strong sense of oneness of human brothers, sisters, religious differences, or racial differences These are secondary. So once, and then the religious case, all religion, in spite of different philosophical views, all major religious traditions carry message of love. And in order to practice love successfully, all religion teach us practice of tolerance, practice of forgiveness, and because of discipline. These things, all religion. In the philosophical field, there is differences. Even within Buddhism, even within Nalanda tradition, there are different philosophical views. So that is necessary among the Buddhists. It's in different mental disposition. Therefore, different philosophy is relevant today. I mean, relevant and necessary. So, okay, different philosophy. But all carry same message of love. So therefore, you see, we should think the real purpose of these different religious traditions. All carry message of love. And different philosophy is method to achieve that goal. So no problem. I have plenty of friends among Muslims. Really some wonderful Muslim and a wonderful Christian. Since we have common practice. So in Australia, one occasion, see, when my public talk on person who introduced me, or Christian priest, when while he introduced me, he described me as a good Christian. Then when I talk, and I consider you as a good Buddhist. So we have common practice, okay. Different sort of costume, different philosophy, a secondary level. Okay, like that. So I think take time, but there is profound basis we can develop religious harmony. And also the promotion of sense of oneness of humanity. All these, we need effort, constant effort. Okay.
So I think we're seeing and hearing that a number of our youth leaders are working in conflict areas where faith has been hijacked by very difficult ideologies. And there are a number of our youth leaders. Fatima, you work in a very difficult part of Nigeria. Let's ask you.
Thank you very much.
I want to share with you one sort of funny story. Bishop Dudu, I know him. We know each other since many years. We truly become genuine, trusted, sort of respected sort of brother, two brothers. Wonderful. And then one occasion, this very room, this is our long discussion, a few days. And then one occasion he mentioned he as a Christian believer about God. So he ready to go to heaven. Then Dalai Lama go different place. So strictly speaking, I'm non-believer, God. So my destination is hell. But you see, that kind of sort of the philosophical different views. But you see, we both practice love and also practice laughing. We always teasing. He always described me mischievous Dalai Lama. Then I immediately respond, mischievous bishop. Wonderful. So human friendship, bond, and practice of love, common. That's more important. What different philosophical views. Okay, yes?
All right, thank you very much. My story is not different from my colleagues because violence all over the world has similar strategies and dimensions. But I grew up in a peaceful community, and I saw overnight that community turned violent and turned evil. I grew up in a community where women and girls are protected and kept at home and kept away from harm. And then overnight, those women and girls were taken and abducted and raped and enslaved in camps outside communities away from their family and being traumatized. This is what Boko Haram did to thousands of women in my community. And this is a Muslim community, and Boko Haram are assumed to be perpetrating an Islamic violence for Islam. And they abducted Islamic women, Muslim women, and girls and children, enslaved them, raped them, and had them have babies with them. Along the line, some of them managed to escape from captivity, while some of them were rescued. But then the community is so blind that could not accept them back or be reintegrated back into their families. Double trauma. These women were forcefully abducted and has been in captivity for 3-4 years, and now they are back and they do not have a home because people are scared of associating with them. And they have also been used as tool for violence, as suicide bombers, as gun carriers and other things. And then I wasn't a direct victim, but I saw this happening, and these girls could be me. I was just lucky not to be in the area where the violence is, but I am also a young woman who could easily been abducted by Boko Haram. So I started a movement to rehabilitate these women and reintegrate them back with their families. This was so challenging to me because it was so difficult to get people understand and accept that it's not the fault of the victims to be in captivity with terror. And some of them that were used as suicide bombing tools were not willing to do that, but were forced rather to carry out those activities. And this is the journey I started, and integrate back many young girls with their children back into their family. That is not sad enough, but the children they came along with from the Boko Haram camps were also victimized by our people because they are being called Boko Haram, and some family were willing to accept their daughters back, but not with the children. The saddest thing was one young girl with her baby living in her own family, but the family members are not associating with the son she came with. And one day he fell ill, and that was how she lost the baby. It was celebrated instead of crying. A life was lost, but people were celebrating because he was associated to Boko Haram. So to stop or reduce the appeal of violent extremism, after reintegration, we started a non-formal learning education system for these children and then to fit back into the society when they grow up. So I love when I came here because I saw the culture and how people preserved their culture even after being in difficult situations. And I want to ask for your advice on how we can make culture really interesting to people and how hard you struggle to keep the culture and the traditions, and people find it really interesting not to keep them away, but also be in their systems and also embrace other differences. Like when we came here, we've never faced any different. We felt like we are here in homes. And I want to know from you how we can transfer this knowledge from your own experience to make people live their cultural way, understand their own differences, and also embrace changes that comes along with the generation. Thank you.
They
visited the Tibetan children's village. They visited the Tibetan children's village and saw how that culture was being preserved.
Basically, I think we should be realistic. We Tibetan, particularly, they come from nomad area. So when we reach India, hot climate, so we never insist we should wear fur, baza congress.
Skins and fur.
So you see, according to the new reality, we have to act according to that reality. So That's what I call adaptable way. Then, as I already mentioned, in previous tradition is feudal system that we voluntarily change these things. We already achieved, as I already mentioned, elected political leadership. They carry all this responsibility. So therefore, if we and our tradition, there are some part very, very valuable that must keep. And some tradition may be part of your tradition, but outdated, so must change. So all these, you should be realistic. That's how I feel, basically. I feel like that. So now, is the time so tomorrow our meeting. So I really feel this kind of meeting. I think eventually we should have more sort of constant, and if possible, it's in different area. I really dreaming Afghanistan. I think in the ancient time, I think we Tibet also, have some connection. Afghan people. And Kyrgyzstan also. One time I met the Kyrgyzstanese former foreign minister, and with him 2 professors. According to the House University tradition, they usually refer Tibet to both. And they showed me one picture, Tibetan sort of writing, one mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. You see that? Inscribed
on a slate.
No. They found on coffin that sort of letter there. So that shows ancient time, very close link with this area, Kyrgyzstan and Afghanistan, this area. So I'm sort of dreaming. In Afghanistan, I think the foreign military sort of forces there that I don't think can solve problem. Afghanistan's problem must solve by Afghanistan people themselves. So little differences, that's minor. But both Afghanistanis have the responsibility to rebuild their nation.
I wonder if we can hear from another one of our Afghan youth leaders.
Okay. Then you should wear Afghan hat. then immediately know this is Afghanistanis.
Yes, because I forget it.
Okay. Now this is last. No problem.
Yeah.
Tell. I think tomorrow, we together lunch. I think together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. There goes the lunch cost, teacher. Oh. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. My story began when my father was killed in a Russian bomb blasting in Afghanistan. I was 40 days of my age, and we were living in a refugee camp in Peshawar, Pakistan. In that time, I was a child, but I was the first child of my parents. When I started to study in an orphanage, I was blessed to able to get education there. There was a welfare organization. They were supporting our orphanage, and I was able to study there. One day there was a Pakistani preacher. He came to our Afghan orphanage. He said that he introduced himself and told that when I was coming to your orphanage, I saw many logos on the schools. They written welcome to the schools. But you know the meaning of welcome? Our other friends told no. I was in that time studying outside orphanage in an English language center. I was understanding what is the meaning of welcome. He said it is similar to the Arabic word, which means wailakum. Wailakum in Arabic means that you should die, you know? Yeah. Then everyone was looking angry to me that because I was going outside to study English. Then I left the place and went.
What is the meaning?
It means that a bad thing will happen to you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hell for you.
I see.
Yes. And that was and that was completely wrong meaning of the English word welcome. And I know that because then everyone was looking at me. They said that I was a person who was studied English and I was loved to learn language. Then I slowly get out that no one beat me. Then I was thinking that there is something to be done in this regard. Why we are so limited from the religious perspective that people thinking that language is learning of language is not allowed or something. But while there is nothing in the religion to study language and to study more and more new technology, but the mind of people who are studying religious education is they're not open mind. I mean, there is nothing in the curriculum of the religious education to talk about the modern world. And there is no any social programs. Only this is one way, it is clearly that go on this way. Do not touch this and do not touch that. Then when I graduated from the high school, I returned to my country. I loved to work in journalism. When I was a student, I was reading everything about media, how to write reports, how to do interview. When I come to my country, I started working as a reporter with a local media organization. Then we found that there is more focus to be done in our country related to education with religious leaders and traditional leaders, and as well with the common people, because there is conflict since 4 decades and everything was distracted. We more focused on how to build peace building among local communities. We started from our own communities, then we started working at other communities too. But especially there was need to work with madrasa too. Madrasa is a religious education place or schools. There is only religious education. There is no computer studies. There is no English studies and other topics too, not physics, not chemistry, nothing else. But while we are living in the current world, we have to learn computer, we have to learn other languages too. That is why we started working in madrasa as well. We teach them journalism, we teach them computer, we teach them internet. Some are still working at media and popular TV. We thought this will be also the alternative solutions to the people who are getting religious education and after their graduation there is no employment opportunities to them. They were working in the media, instead they were joined with extremist activities in work because when no one has a job, he definitely go to join with extremist group, and they're also paying some amount of money to them. And we would like to counter them. And we also organize some exchange conferences and workshops with different parts from the country with ulamas. Okay, I'm going to stop because the story is long. Then we also receive many threats. Some people were calling me that you are working for the Christians. I received the message, they told me that you are working for Jews. Someone was telling me that if you not stop working in 15 days, you will be killed. I said, okay, I will stop my work. Then this was a big challenge to me because we're living in a provinces where is all kind of violence is still going on. There is targeting, killing, there is conflict between two sects. Although there is one religion mostly, but there is different sects in there is conflict. And I was telling them, okay, I stopped my work. But in fact, I did not stop my work. I was working from my home because my work was important to me. If I stop working, so what will be the future solution to my country? What will be about the future generation of my country? My question, sir, how we build trust and harmony between different sects of the society to work together for peace building, and how we avoid hate speech among them. Thank you so much.
I think the best thing, simple thing is smile. I think sometimes I teasing Rinpoche more serious. Look, I always smile, laughing like that. So I think again, see, consider every human being a part of world human community and all same human being. And the religion, now we should develop a sense of several truth, several religion. And another, one truth, one religion. So now, in terms of one individual, the sense of one truth, one religion is very relevant to keep your single-pointed faith. In the terms of community, in terms of world humanity, whether you like it or not, there are already 1,000 years different religious tradition there. So each, I think, helped humanity immensely. That's fact. So there are several religions and several truths there. So that we must accept. So individual concept of one truth, one religion. In terms of humanity, concept of several truths, several religion. That again, as I mentioned earlier, realistic way, we have to think that way. So in Tibet, at least in the last 4 centuries, the small Muslim community from India come. So at that time, the 15th Dalai Lama, the full power, he provided land for construction of mosque in Lhasa. So the concept of several truth, several religion actually implemented. So as a result, now very good harmony, those Muslim brothers, sisters in Lhasa and some other, I think, few Tibetan town. So now here, Dharamsala, as you mentioned, you see Tibetan people generally quite jovial. And I think in Buddhism stress entire sentient being, same. So whether you implement fully or not, so
the Tibetans are used to praying for all sentient beings.
That also, you see, unconsciously, I think some impact in their mind. So, then practical level, Tibetan quite jovial, always laughing like that. My own family, also since childhood, were always teasing, always laughing like that. So that's, I think, therefore, you see many foreign tourists who come to Dharamsala, many of them, you see, express to me, while they remain in Dharamsala, they find happiest of the moment. All the facility nowadays better. Otherwise, in the past and previous time, no proper bathroom or toilet, so you have to go in forest. So while you carry that work, so meanwhile, involuntarily, you also give some blood to some mosquito. Come here. But despite that, you see, people, really enjoy visit Dharamsala. Not facility, but people, community here, jovial. We're always joking like that. So that's, I think, basic human nature is more compassionate. The way of life, also more compassionate life, compassionate culture. Then wherever they live, happy community. Irrespective of whether believe or not believe. Like the Tibetan Muslim. Religiously, they are Muslim. But culturally, you see, they are very much in the they live in the spirit of Buddhist culture. So those Tibetan Muslim eventually reach India, then the government arrange one sort of place in Srinagar. I have been few occasions there. They speak Tibetan very well. And in recent time, some of them came to see me here, and including their children, speak Tibetan, particularly Lhasa dialect, very fluently. I was sort of surprised. How? They say you keep these Tibetan dialect, Lhasa dialect. In their family, in their home, they always speak, Lhasa dialect like that. No special sort of school, but go like that, their family. I think a few months ago, I met one sort of Tibetan Muslim who come from Srinagar. He told me through Tibetan that how soon we can return to Tibet. Like that. So we never bother what is religion, but Tibetan. Okay. So, broader sense, we are human being. We are Asian human being. There's no problem. So, Africa, eventually, I really feel the other day I mentioned African Union should develop, like a European Union. Then there's a different community, different language, secondary. Remain African Union. That's the best guarantee. No violence between different sort of country, and through that way, eventually can reduce civil sort of the conflict, civil war way, like that. So, as a young African, I think you should think long-term solution, not immediate solution. I think you can say these generation of the 21st century, you can say, or let the generation of 20th century, let them go. Then you can rebuild happier humanity. All these problems started generation of 20th century. We, they. I think except me should remain.
We agree.
So thank you. See you again tomorrow. And with lunch.
Please remain in your place until this holiness leaves.
Okay, no problem. Getting older, my physical and also knees some problem, and the feeling of tiredness increasing. But still, my brain quite sharp. Okay. So recently, one occasion, one Indian politician joined with me. So next few days, we become very close. We become very close friend. And then one morning, he came to see me and asked me, how? I said, a good rest made you sleep. So then I told him, each night, 9 hours sleep, then some meditation. He said, that's sharpening my mind, so I can cheat other people more easily. Then he responded immediately, he only can sleep 6 hours, so he cannot cheat other people. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you. So thank you. See you again tomorrow.
Thank you. Tomorrow.
Then I want to invite you lunch together.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No wine. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.